to today's webinar. My name is Matt Baer. I'm the founder of Q4Launch. I'm excited that you all are along for the ride with us today. Excited to tackle this topic of the HomeAway shakeup and how it impacts you, and talk a little bit about what we're seeing, talk a little bit about the future, where we think things are headed, and hopefully share some ideas with you guys that will open your minds up, open your thoughts up, and challenge you to do some critical thinking about where things are headed. That's what we love to do. If you've been to our education sessions in the past, whether that's at a Verma conference or through our webinar series that we do, you know we like to challenge the status quo, challenge the way we think about things, and present some opportunities for you to grow and develop and change within your business to drive growth for yourself. So excited to do that. A little bit about myself. I am a millennial. I grew up as a tech entrepreneur, had my first e-commerce company early on in my career, sold that, started Q4Launch about 8 years ago. In the last 4 years, we have focused exclusively into the hospitality space and work exclusively with lodging companies like vacation rentals, boutique hotels, bed and breakfast. So that's who we are as a company. We're blessed to have customers from our properties we work with, from Hong Kong to Maui, and just about every destination in between. So we have an unbelievable amount of industry data available to us as we're making these webinars, as we're making recommendations, as we're developing strategies. Ton of data, and I know many of you come back time and time again to our webinars or show up every week or so to get that data and that insight. So I'm glad that it's been meaningful to so many of you, and appreciate the feedback you guys give us afterwards as well, that it's meaningful for you all. So excited to share that information with you. We're going to dive into a lot today. It's going to be a little bit different than our usual webinar. Going to be a little bit more of a tackling a hot topic in our industry, as opposed to a lot of our webinars usually much more educational, much more how-to. We're not going to do a lot of how-to today. We're going to talk a little bit more about this shakeup, how it's impacting the businesses that we work with and the people we've talked to. Just coming off the Verma conference last week in Atlanta, it was a hot topic. And then working to try to help you think about some possibilities and develop a game plan for yourself. So if there's anything we can do to help there, we'll get that thought process started hopefully for you today. Won't be able to dive too deep into that, but hopefully we'll at least get that thought process started for you today. If you have any issues with sound or anything like that, please do use the chat panel to let us know that as we move throughout our time together. We are having a bit of a stormy day here in Charleston, and our internet has been a little skittish the last week or so. We are just in a new office as part of our growth, and we're still trying to work out some of those bugs. So apologize if you have any issues. I wanted to let you know that ahead of time so we can get those addressed. So with that little bit of housekeeping, one last little bit, we will use the chat panel for questions and answers at the end of our time together. I know there will most likely be a lot of questions about what we're going to be talking about, so please do use the chat panel for those, and I'll get to as many of those at the end of our time as I can. Got a lot we want to cover today, so I'll stay around and answer questions, hopefully as long as needed, before I need to get into my next meeting. And then the last little bit, just a disclaimer on our content for today. Again, this isn't how-to. Much of what we're going to say today is our opinion and our analysis of the situation. We're going to quote many facts that we know to be true, but then we're also going to give you our opinion, our analysis on where we think things are headed, and so forth. So know that some of it's facts and some of it is conjecture on our part that we believe to be where things are headed and the truth, but you've got to take that, process that for yourself to figure out what you want to do with that. And then the other disclaimer is this is not at all a Slam HomeAway webinar. That's not at all what the point of this is. If you've heard me speak before, you know that I have the stance that HomeAway should play a role, in all the sites that are that should play a role in your marketing strategy. But it shouldn't be your marketing strategy. It shouldn't be the entirety of it. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to hit on that point a little bit, but that's not what the intent is. I know there's a lot of emotion wrapped around this issue, and we're not really going to dive into the emotional piece of it, maybe a little bit. But mostly we're going to be looking at facts today and then talking about what do we need to do as an industry, as business owners, as business managers, as marketing directors, whatever role you find yourself in within your company to be able to make the best decisions for your business as a result of what we're seeing. So wanted to cover those things. Appreciate you being here, and hopefully the content will be very, very helpful for you as we dive into this. So let's just get it started. Let's get after it. We've got all that housekeeping out of the way. Let's go ahead and get things started here. So the one thing that we know, the only constant there is in this world is change. The only constant is change, and holy smokes, change is happening rapidly. The last 12 months, we have seen rapid change throughout our industry. We've seen a lot of consolidation at the top of our industry, but also other parts of the industry. So let's just take a slight glimpse back really on what happened last year in the space. It's crazy to me that we're already in May of 2016, but let's touch briefly on some of the highlights of 2015. One, and we hosted a huge webinar on this back in December. I know many of you were at, and that was the announcement of Expedia's acquisition of HomeAway for $3.9 billion. HomeAway had 1.2 million listings and revenue, about $447 million at the time. Pretty crazy when you think about that and what that translates to from a valuation perspective. And some of these statistics are a bit hard to come by. So some of these we've sourced through many different sources. So you may see slightly different statistics. Some of them are kind of best guess statistics. When we look at the rise of Airbnb, which was a huge growth last year, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about Airbnb today, but one of the big changes we see in our industry is this battle going on between these two brands, and they've both got a lot of good things going for them. I love what Airbnb's ad campaigns are doing right now to grow the unique or independent segment of the lodging industry as a whole. And HomeAway has some very specific ads to attack the Airbnb business model as well. So it's an interesting time to see that from a marketing perspective. But looking at Airbnb, they doubled their revenue last year to an estimated $900 million. They have reported over 2 million listings in 34,000 cities. Now, one of the things we know about Airbnb listings, because they're free to set up, is a lot of quote-unquote hosts will have multiple listings for the same property based on if it's a duplex, they'll list it together as one. We see a lot of that. So we know that their actual listing number or their actual property count is probably much, much lower. The company, based on recent capital raises they have done, is valued at around $25 billion, which is absolutely insane. It's insane to think about HomeAway getting acquired for $3.9 billion, but even more insane to think that Airbnb is getting a $25 billion valuation at current capital raises or recent capital raises. And Airbnb is growing at roughly 35,000 listings a month. You can Google that and find some great good growth charts that are just astounding. But those numbers are ranging between 20 and 40,000 new listings per month being added to the site. So there is an unbelievable amount of inventory being added to that site. And inventory is a key word, or supply, as we look at it in the economic world, being added to our market that we're doing business in as vacation rental managers. So lots going on there. Been a crazy year last year, and just this year it's been a crazy year as well. Most of this has happened this year. Some of it was towards the end of last year. But we're going to hit on some of these points. This slide right here is going to kind of set the agenda for our time together today. HomeAway has brought a slew of changes in the end of 2015 and the beginning of 2016. Some search engine optimization mistakes that have been well documented and talked about throughout the industry that led to some traffic issues. The rise of the best match algorithm. The mandate to be 100% online bookable by Brian Sharples by 2017. And you see in parentheses there, or not. And we're going to talk about why we say or not here in just a minute, or maybe 30 minutes. And then the elimination of listing levels as well, which was breaking news in the Expedia earnings call on Friday. Expedia's commitment to conversion rate optimization, another big part of that earnings call. And then the traveler service fee, which that is last on our agenda because it's the most talked about, and it's probably where we're going to spend the most of our time together today, is diving into that traveler service fee and unpacking that a little bit and really trying to understand what's going on with that service fee and then how that's going to be impacting you, and then springboarding that into a conversation about where we believe the future is headed and why Expedia made this acquisition, which we're going to kind of carry those themes throughout all the topics we're going to talk about, but we're most notably going to hit those on the last. So that's a lot. That's going to be a lot to pack in. I'll tell you, I've done more research for this webinar than I've done for any other webinar or talk I have ever given before, but we had an overwhelming response to our email about doing this. Had an incredibly high number of registrations for this webinar. If you had any issues trying to get registered, we apologize. We were upgrading our GoToWebinar account throughout because there were so many people trying to get registered. So appreciate you sticking with us, and we will make sure to get you a recording of this as well. So let's dive in. Let's start talking about some of these changes. But as we do that, we want to answer this question, and we're going to use some polls today too. I have 2 poll questions for you today. The first one we're going to hit here in just a minute. But so are they up or are they down? That's the question. According to Expedia, in the earnings call they made on April 28th, they said that HomeAway transaction volume is up 170% in the first quarter of 2016. Now, they didn't specify whether this statistic was year over year or quarter over quarter. We assume, based on that statistic, that that's over the fourth quarter of 2015, which the fourth quarter is historically a weaker quarter for our space, for our industry as a whole. And I say we assume that because a lot of the other things we see data-wise don't support the fact that transaction volume would be up 170%. And a lot of what we're hearing from our customers and what we're seeing in their data is that transaction volume is not up 170%. The other thing they don't specifically outline is what defines a transaction. How do we define a transaction to get to this statistic? So that's one of the difficult things about statistics, is they're only as good as the person who's spinning them, but we don't know a lot of things in these statistics. Just like our unemployment rate in this country is down a little bit, but that's because a lot of people are leaving the job market. When we look at the percentage of people who are actually employed, it tells a very different story. So there's a lot of things we need to try to unpack and understand when we see a statistic like that. I mean, yes, that tells the market, hey, things are great, buy our stock. And I would encourage you to, I probably don't even know if I'm allowed to say this, but I'm not a registered financial advisor, so I'll give you that disclaimer. But in our December webinar, which we hosted on the acquisition, I told people, go buy Expedia stock. And since then, their stock has risen by, I believe, about 30%. So I'm not saying I'm a gold digger, but if you want to, we believe some big things are in store for Expedia. Now is a good time to buy that stock. A little bit off topic, but a little bit of tip for you there. But again, don't sue me if they lose money, because I gave you that disclaimer. There's a good chance I'll be wrong on that stock tip. I've been wrong on many before. Moving along, our customers have seen dramatic decreases. We talked about that, but dramatic decreases in leads and bookings from HomeAway in the first quarter, year over year. So are they up or are they down? That's the question. And in reality, the only thing that matters to you is how is that impacting your business. And as we look at this, we want to unpack why might they be down or up. My belief is that they're down. That's going to be our poll question for you here in just a minute, which is an anonymous poll, I believe. It's anonymous, so share that. But even if it's not anonymous, we won't give that data to anybody. It's just for our own sake. So if you find this information valuable, we would appreciate you helping us understand what's going on in your business with just a yes or no answer here in just a minute. You should see that poll pop up on your screen. But why might year-over-year transactions be down, right? I mean, that's the burning question a lot of people are asking. And it leads me to the question is, did somebody miss Economics 101? Like, am I the only one who took that class? I would think that we've got some other scholars over at Expedia and at HomeAway, some brilliant people there. But if we go back to supply and demand, right, the basic principle of Economics 101, supply and demand, when supply and demand meet at the perfect place, you have the perfect price being sold for the perfect number of units or the perfect quantity of units at the perfect price is what's called the equilibrium point where supply and demand meet. That point's very elusive. It's very hard to find the perfect point, right? And this is the same basis for yield management or revenue management and raising rates based on demand and your market. But as we look at this and we talk about the growth in supply that we're seeing in the vacation rental industry, which Bill Furlong in his presentation about the future of the industry touted the growth that we're seeing and how many vacation homes are being bought and the percentage of those people who plan to rent them out as a source of income. All really exciting things. All things we should be excited about as an industry that paint a good picture for us going forward. But that increase in supply has to also come with an increase in demand. Otherwise, price will go down. If we increase demand faster than we increase supply, price goes up. That's good. But if we increase supply faster than we increase demand, price will go down. And what we're seeing in the marketplace is that for the vacation rental market or the unique lodging segment, because Airbnb kind of blurs those lines a little bit with some of their properties or listings not really being true vacation rental. But as we look at the market as a whole, and when we look at HomeAway, supply is up. They have more listings than they have ever had. There are more decisions that can be made or more opportunities for a consumer to book than there ever have been. At the same time, hotels are being built and opened at a pace that has never happened before in the history of our country. If you study the growth of the hotel market, it is exploding right now. So it's its own unique segment, not a direct competitor of us, because we're usually housing groups, but there is overlap there. There's a little bit of overlap. And at the same time that HomeAway's supply is up, yay for them, HomeAway's demand is down. So supply is up, demand is down. That would traditionally tell us the price is going to go down. But instead, HomeAway has raised the total cost of taking a vacation for travelers. And they've raised that total cost by adding the service fee on the traveler side of approximately 6%. So we're kind of violating some really basic economic principles here of supply and demand and how we make pricing decisions as a result of that. And a 6% increase in price, approximately, if you average out their service fee, is a significant increase. You know, you add that to any natural increases that you have in your business from a year over year trying to grow, it's pretty significant. Or you add that to yield management that you're trying to do and get more aggressive with to kind of match. It gets difficult. And then we ask the question, why are transactions down? Why are leads down? Why are bookings down from HomeAway in the first part of this year? It's kind of obvious, right? I mean, when we really get down to the supply and demand part of this equation, it makes perfect sense why it's down. What we do about that is really the question that we can control. We can't control the macro picture of HomeAway's own economic engine that they've built. And I'm not saying that the service fee was right or wrong. That was absolutely their decision, and I'm going to show you some stats on maybe why they made that decision here in a little bit. But it is what it is, and we have to then decide as a business owner, manager, operator, employee, what are we going to do as a result of what we're seeing here? And do we expect this to change quickly? So here's time for our poll. Year to date, so looking at this year, are your leads and book out? That poll on your screen, that. So I'm going to give you about on a note. We were interested in those. We may publish a blog just on big picture statistics that we're seeing a little bit later on. But yeah, it would be helpful for us. Looks like those votes are starting to come in. So it looks like there's a slight delay between the audio and video of that poll going on. I apologize for that delay, but appreciate those of you who are voting for us to help us get that data. Awesome. Got a couple comments coming in as well. Thank you for those comments. Appreciate that. If you commented, please also do vote in the poll that's there on your screen just so we have that data. If you're watching the recording, don't try to click it. It won't work if you're watching the recording. So don't drive yourself crazy and call your IT guy. We'll move along here. Got a lot of people who have voted, and we'll keep things moving along. Oh, still a few votes coming in. All right, we're going to go ahead and close that. We've had that open for about a minute. Awesome. We're going to keep things moving, try to be respectful of everybody's time, so just keeping that open for about a minute there. So let's dive into that demand side of that equation, right? It's been well documented at this point, some of the search engine optimization mistakes that have been made by HomeAway this year, and that has been catastrophic and one of the big reasons we believe we've seen some of the problems that we have seen. From a leads and bookings perspective. But hopefully you've read or you've heard at this point that early this year, HomeAway blocked search engine bots from crawling parts of their site. The technical part of that is through their robots.txt file, which tells the robots or the bots how to crawl their site and gives them instructions on how to do that. There was some pages that were blocked, and that caused those to drop out of search results. And as a result of that, they lost rankings for a massive amount of keywords that were blocked through that, which led to a massive loss in organic search traffic, or roughly 1.2 million visits per month were lost from that mistake. An absolutely huge amount of traffic. And again, these are estimates. You know, we don't get their data. We have tools that we use to try to estimate things for our customers, and that's what we're doing here is pulling that, using those tools to pull this data. But what we see is that they are getting about 1.3 million visits in traffic per month right now. And at a peak, they were getting about 2.5 million visits per month in late 2015. So if we look at 2.5 and take away the 1.3 that they currently have, and you can see that drop off there, and we'll zoom in on that for you here on our next slide, you get the idea that we've lost about 1.2 million visits a month in organic search traffic to HomeAway.com, which is a big deal. You can't lose 1.2 million visits per month and not see an impact on that. You know, we talk a lot about data. I talked about at the beginning that we're very data-driven as a company, and that's a big deal. It's a big deal to see that kind of drop-off, see that kind of loss. And to monetize that, to kind of put that in perspective for you, assuming this traffic is worth about $2 per click based on what we see as industry-wide pay-per-click data. Now, I know HomeAway doesn't pay this for their clicks because they get, you know, they're buying massive amounts of traffic from Google, so they're not paying what the average vacation rental manager is paying, but we see them paying, you know, $1 to $2 a click. If we assume it was $2 per click, this was a $2.4 million per month mistake. So 4 months into the year, that amount of traffic, we could assume, based on our assumptions here, that that was about a $9.6 million mistake so far. So we think about why are leads down, why are bookings down, and I can tell you the majority of people told us that their leads and bookings were down. A shocking majority, an overwhelming majority told us leads and bookings were down in that poll we just took, and we're seeing that as well. But you wonder why, and that's kind of what we're seeing. That's one of the pieces that we're seeing. The other piece of that equation and why we believe demand is down is the best match algorithm. And I was going to put a slide in here about what makes up the best match algorithm, but you've probably all been schooled on that right now. But if you look at the HomeAway knowledge base and look up best match, you will find a knowledge base answer that says best match is used to determine optimal booking placements for pay-per-booking listings. And it actually says more than that. I pulled that excerpt out. It says that it's designed to do that for all listings. All of them are designed for optimal placement, but it specifically looks at pay-per-booking listings for optimal booking placements as well, which the Q4 launch paraphrase on that is that best match is used to drive greater commissions by serving up pay-per-booking listings. You know, we have one customer that told us the story that she switched some of her properties that got 0 leads last year from a classic subscription to a pay-per-booking subscription because it had 0 leads last year. She felt like she wasted that money, so she switched it over, and now she's getting more traffic than she has ever had for that. And it's frustrating because it's like, okay, why did that happen? It's not that anything changed at the property. It's not that demand changed in her market. It's just that now that is a pay-per-commission, or excuse me, pay-per-booking, so they earn the commission. So that listing gets served higher than it does for a lot of the others, which we saw a lot of frustration around this. And what role does my subscription level play? I paid for Platinum, but I'm not seeing that anymore. We know there's a lot of people who are frustrated and upset about some of that as well. But when you think about it, they're a capitalist business just like yours, and if you have the opportunity to earn more money by serving up different listings, chances are you're going to do it. I mean, chances are that is what's in the best interest of your shareholders. And what we believe the best match actually does is it looks at the amount of inquiries you're getting, and it moves the listings around to maximize the ROI for each individual listing. So it's not, again, it's not an evil thing. What we believe, and it's not all just to feed, to stock HomeAway's coffers. We don't believe that. We believe, of course, they're capitalists, so they want to make as much money as they can, and we believe that's okay for them. Not that they're the enemy when they're doing that. But we believe they're moving those listings around based more on optimizing ROI and providing the right amount of ROI as opposed to just doing it based on subscription level. Which leads us to this next slide here, and that's, do you really think HomeAway shareholders want to deliver a 50 to 1 or 100 to 1 ROI on your subscription fee? You know, one of the stats I saw quite a bit was that the average HomeAway subscription is paying about 3.5%. So the average person is getting a 3.5% subscription fee to revenue ratio, which is roughly a 30 to 1 ROI ratio. But we know, because we have customers who are getting these ratios, a 50 to 1 or 100 to 1 ROI on your subscription. And I guarantee you that that is not what they want. That's not what shareholders want. If shareholders are sitting down with Brian Sharple and he asked them, you know, do you think it's fair for us to provide 100 to 1 ROI to our vacation rental managers? They would say no. I know as vacation rental managers, we would all say, yeah, that seems like a great deal. But it doesn't seem fair to them, and they're trying to find ways to better monetize what they've built. they have built an absolute domination of the vacation rental industry, and as such, they get to pull the strings a little bit. And when you look at the culture that we believe is coming, and I'm going to talk more about this later on, but when you look at the culture, Expedia routinely gets a 5-to-1 return on investment market adoption, meaning that for years the hotel industry has accepted between 15 and 30% commissions for OTAs or online travel agencies like Expedia. So if Expedia has proven that they can demand a 20% commission model, which is kind of an average we're going to use, they've proven that the lodging industry will accept a 5-to-1 ROI, and they buy a business that's providing a 50-to-1 ROI. What do you think they see? What do you think the opportunity there is? What do you think is coming? And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. We also believe that their goal, and they've made this pretty clear through things that they've said, sometimes you got to read between lines and put a few quotes together, but ultimately their goal is to move from a directory business model. I don't even think you have to read between the lines. I think this has actually been stated, but their goal is to move from a directory business model to a vacation rental booking marketplace. And that key there is the booking marketplace, where transactions occur and revenue passes hands. And as such, we all know the value of search results. We know the value of search results on Google. We know the value of search results on HomeAway. Any search engine that's out there, we know the value of being at the top of that or near the top of that. And it would make sense from a capitalistic perspective, from an Expedia acquisition perspective, from a maximizing shareholder profitability or shareholder value, that they are going to control search results to drive the greatest profits for their shareholders. And I would bet you that you would do the same thing if you were running their business. And I know that gets a little bit into the emotional piece of it. I told you this wasn't going to be an Attack HomeAway webinar. We're going to dive into the facts. But when you think about it, would you rather in your business have a guest who books a $5,000 rental or a guest that books a $2,000 rental? For nearly the same amount of work, if you're on a 20% commission model with your owners, you're going to make $1,000 off that $5,000 rental, or you're going to make $400 off the $2,000 rental. It's just natural. Every capitalist out there, which is one of the great things about our country, would rather someone books the $5,000 rental and they make $1,000 off that booking to do nearly the same amount of work, if not identically the same amount of work they're going to do for that $2,000 rental and make $400. And in the same way, HomeAway wants to maximize their value. HomeAway wants to book as much as they can and make as much as they can off of that, while providing value back to the industry and growing the industry as a whole. So it's not that they're villains for doing this. It's not that they're villains for trying to get a better or a more equilibrium point from an ROI perspective for themselves, back to that supply and demand model we looked at earlier. It's just that that's kind of at the core. And if we really check our own motivation, I think you'll see that if you were running the organization, you would do the same thing. And that's a big thing to be thinking about, because it will affect some of the decisions you need to be making, and it should affect, hopefully, the attitude you take to some of those decisions. And again, we don't want to take either side. We're going to say some things that are pretty abrasive to the overall business model of HomeAway and going after that. But we also want to be real about what's going on, and that they're not villains for trying to do some of the things that they're doing. And then we see this, this was a big conversation as well. The mandate to be 100% online bookable by 2017. And Brian Charles made it very clear that this was the goal, that this was going to happen, that they were working to this, and there were some things said at different times that led people to believe that you might be dropped off the site, just flat out dropped if you wouldn't adapt to this. And we saw a lot of pushback on this specific issue. Because a lot of people don't want to let someone else collect their money. And I understand that. And there's a lot of other reasons behind it. We don't want to be able to vet guests. We don't want to have spring breakers booking. We don't want to have bachelor parties booking. Like, I understand all of the reasons. But at the end of the day, travelers are demanding a more instant society. And that's what HomeAway sees, that's what Expedia sees, and that's what they're trying to work towards. But they also know that every booking that happens outside of HomeAway, HomeAway loses the opportunity to collect their service fee. So there is an extreme financial motivation for them to make this a reality, to make these bookings happen. One of the prior motivations towards this they've been making was to prepare themselves for an acquisition. They might not have come out and said that, but if you've been on webinars in the past, I think we taught a webinar about this time last year on this specific issue. And one of the points we said was, this is being done to set themselves up to be acquired by a major OTA. And what do you know? Fast forward 6 months into November, and HomeAway announces that very same thing. So you just kind of saw the writing on the wall that this was coming. And they've seen great progress towards this goal. In 2014, they went from 6% online bookable to 36%. Tremendous growth. In 2015, they went from 36% to roughly 50%. These are rough stats because we're just pulling some things together based on quotes that have been made in different places. We didn't find like Brian coming out and saying an exact quote, but big picture quotes that we're seeing from different statements that have been made. So we know they're making progress towards that, and we know they're going to be pushing that continually. I mean, Brian has made that statement that they had to be by 2017, 100% online bookable by 2017. But in some of that breaking news that came out of the Expedia earning call on April 28th, we had a couple big things. The Expedia CEO, and I'm going to go ahead and skip that because I'm not even going to try to do my best at butchering his name, apologize. He announced that they are putting the hold on being 100% online bookable. Made it clear that they're still working towards that goal, but they're putting the hold on being on 100% online bookable, which is breaking news. That's good news for many of us. That's good news for vacation rental managers. I think the consumer is ultimately going to still gravitate towards listings that are, and they made it very clear they're going to serve as part of best match, kind of the way, if you read the comments on it, the #1 characteristic of best match seems to be online bookable. So if you want to be at the top of search results, you need to be moving this way either way. You need to be ready for that, and you still have that 24-hour period to vet the guests and those types of things. But the customer doesn't want that haggling scenario anymore. They just want to know they've got it booked. And you'll see customers booking $15,000, $30,000 weeks at massive vacation rentals with zero communication. They won't ask you a single question. They'll go on, they'll book it at midnight, and they'll be done. You'll be shocked the next day when you come in and you have a $15,000 booking. But that's the future. It's here now. We're seeing that now with our customers. And I would bet many of you are seeing that as well. But they're still moving this direction, but breaking news, they're putting the hold on it, which is big because Priceline has made it very clear that they're not putting the hold on it. That it is a matter of fact, the Priceline group versus the Expedia group, like that's the big battle, right? I mean, those are the two big boys. They've made it very clear that all vacation rentals on their platform have to be online bookable. Like there's no and ifs or buts about it. It's just the way it goes with them, at least from what we've seen. There's always weird exceptions that pop up, but from what we've seen, that's the way it's going to be. Some other breaking news, and many of you, I'm sure, got this email that came out. But he also announced the elimination of listing levels. So Platinum, Gold, and Classic are gone, or they're going to be gone. They're not gone yet, but they're going to be gone. And this makes perfect sense, right? If we're moving towards 100% online bookable and we're moving towards best match, it was said that Platinum, Gold, and Classic still ordered the results, but then within those, it was best match driven. So Platinum would always be ahead of Classic, even if it had a best match score. That was what we were being told. The results we were actually seeing did not support that. So I think that was maybe the lip service we were getting, but I don't think that's actually been happening for a while. So it makes perfect sense that they would go ahead and do away with that, because rightfully so, many of you were very frustrated that Classic listings were getting ranked above your Platinum listing just because they were online bookable, or pay-per-booking listings were getting ranked above your Platinum just because the commission model was stronger. So it makes perfect sense that we see that elimination. But that's a huge deal, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. In the new listing model, all online booking listings will be $349. Those that aren't online bookable will be $499. So they're still going to allow those to happen, but you're going to pay a little bit of a premium to have a non-online bookable listing. And then the other announcement was the 10% pay per booking has been reduced to 8%. So that was part of the outcry. It's just costing us too much. So that 10% pay per booking has been reduced down to 8%. And the other thing, which hasn't changed, is that if you're online bookable, you have to process your payments through HomeAway's payment provider. So that's kind of been the way it has been as well. That wasn't a change. So a big deal, big information there. And that's going to have a huge revenue impact on HomeAway. The majority of their revenue comes from listing fees, because to this point, they very much are a directory site. Yes, they get a lot of revenue from other things, and their revenue this year over last year has grown quite a bit from their other sources. but this is going to make a major negative impact on HomeAway's revenue. And you can guarantee Expedia didn't pay $3.9 billion to slash their revenue model and lose money. So if we know that, it begs the question of what's coming next. And we're going to dive into that a little bit. We kind of have a little bit already, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper into it. But what's coming next? What do we need to expect? And how are we going to see that? One of the other things that came out of the call was Expedia's commitment to conversion rate optimization. I'll say of all the things said on that call, this is one of the things I'm most excited about. This is one of the things that we geek out most about at Q4Launch. And that's conversion rate optimization. Because when you really hone in on what this is, with the same amount of traffic, but looking at better designing parts of your site to convert customers, you can make a tremendous impact. And when we think about the value Expedia brings to the table for HomeAway, they have a massive amount of resources, staff, data, testing, everything else at their disposal to test conversion rate and optimize conversion rate. They have a lot of resources wrapped around this, and they've done a ton of testing that HomeAway can learn and implement that they wouldn't have had access to before this acquisition. If you were on the webinar we did last week about great web design and the trends that we're seeing in 2016, Expedia's mobile experience was one of the things we highlighted. And we see conversion drops big time on mobile devices. So we know that that's kind of a wild west right now, is conversion rate optimization for mobile devices, because conversion is a lot lower on mobile devices than it is on laptop or desktop devices. So that's just kind of a random statistic for you, but we see that. HomeAway sees that as well. HomeAway, they also told us, HomeAway is currently seeing about a 2 to a 3% conversion rate on transactions. So the number of transactions happening on their site. That doesn't mean bookings. I don't exactly know what all they define into a transaction, mentioned that earlier, but it is overall conversion rate. And when we look at this, a small change you make to your site, or a small change HomeAway makes to their site, or anybody, can make a huge impact. And I wanted to kind of put this in numbers for you. I told you we're data geeks. If this is your first time with us, we'll look through these numbers. But let's look at an estimated 20.5 million visits. Let's just looking at HomeAway.com and VRBO.com, which are just two sites of the whole family. But just looking at those sites, last month they got a ballpark 20.5 million visits. So I took that to 20 million just to make the math easy. If they have a 2% conversion rate, meaning 2% of visits to their website convert into a transaction, however they're defining transaction, that's 400,000 transactions per month. If they go in through conversion rate optimization and make changes to the design of their site, that conversion path or that conversion process, if they change that conversion path and they get it from a 2% to a 3% conversion rate, that 20 million visitors at a 3% conversion rate is now 600,000 transactions. So small changes, and it doesn't seem small, right? But we do this with some of our customers, and we've seen this. We see this data real time, helping them move these conversion numbers. And if you've been with us, we've talked about this before. But these small changes can make a huge impact from a number of transactions. And as vacation rental managers, this is what we want for HomeAway. This is what we want to see for them, because we benefit when they make these changes. Yes, they benefit as well, but we also benefit from these types of changes. So a huge opportunity, and one of the things that out of this acquisition I'm most excited about, seeing Expedia bring those resources to the table for HomeAway, and hopefully seeing some changes to increase conversion without increasing traffic. Notice traffic was the same. It stayed at 20 million, but that conversion rate changed and made a huge impact. If you can increase traffic and increase conversion rate, then you see exponential growth, and that's a really powerful situation. So as I talked about, that's 50% growth. And one of the things I want you to take away from our webinar today is that that's attainable for you. You don't have to be Expedia. You don't have to be a $15 billion company, which Expedia is a $15 or $16 billion company. You don't have to be that to focus on conversion rate optimization. There are things you can do within your website, within your processes, within the way you talk to guests that will impact conversion rate optimization. And you can see those kind of growth numbers as well. You might not see the 20 million number, right? But you'll see growth in conversion ratio. If you have 5,000 or 10,000 or 50,000 visits to your website and you increase your conversion rate by 50%, it would be significant. you take your conversion rate from 2% to 3%, think about the impact that would make on your business. Do that quick math for yourself, just in that formula I showed you, and start diving into that. And if you have questions about that, I know I'm kind of opening a can of worms there and not going to spend a lot of time on it, but just let us know. We'd be happy to help. My email will be on the screen. You also have emails from me from registering. You can just reply, and we'd be happy to talk to you about how we might be able to help you with conversion rate optimization. But you can drive significant results. And I want you to take that. Everyone should be looking at conversion rate optimization. It's not an Expedia thing, not a HomeAway thing. Everyone should be looking at conversion rate optimization. You need to be looking at this in your business across the board. Percentage of website visits that convert into a transaction, percentage of leads that convert into a booking. There's all these conversion opportunities you have in your business, and you have to look at every one of those touches and what that conversion rate looks like and how to optimize and change that. So now we're going to get into the all-important traveler service fee, or what I call Expedia's aha moment. I doubt very many of you feel like the girl on the screen here who's walking down this Main Street location. It actually looks like a corner here in Charleston. For all I know it is. It's really a stock photo, but it's a cool photo. You probably don't feel like this girl, right? This girl has had her, I'm excited, she's had her aha moment, victory. Many of us are not excited about that. But when we really think about this service fee, and Airbnb has proven that this is possible, they've proven people are willing to pay it, we believe it's one of the things Expedia had in mind from the beginning of this acquisition. When you go back and you actually study the acquisition and you study the, and this is all published because they're publicly traded companies, and you study the negotiation back and forth, and you see the path of negotiation and the ultimate price that they settle on, that Expedia and HomeAway settle on, Expedia agreed to pay a 20% premium above what the market or the stock market valued HomeAway at. So the stock market said HomeAway is worth X based on their share value and the number of outstanding shares. When Expedia bought them, they paid a 20% premium above that. So that was about $30-some dollars, and they paid $6 over that. So roughly a 20% premium to buy HomeAway. Why would they do that? I mean, you wouldn't pay $1.20 to buy a dollar bill, would you? It doesn't make sense. Or pay $24 to buy a $20 bill. That doesn't make sense. Unless you had something in mind you could do with that $20 that was worth more than it was worth before. If you could do something with it that would make it worth more than it was before. And that's what we believe they saw with the service fee. They saw an opportunity to take a business and apply this and make it worth more than it was before. So follow my math. It's pretty basic math. But HomeAway drove, what we estimate is they drove $15 billion in booking revenue last year. $15 billion. That is an unbelievable amount of money. If you think about them getting 100% online bookable and 100% of that revenue flowing through that online marketplace that they are desiring to build and make a reality, and they can get their service fee on $15 billion, which there's a journey, right, to get there. That's not going to happen overnight. But if they can go on that journey, $15 billion times 6% is $900 million. $900 million is what the service fee means. And that's assuming that $15 billion doesn't grow. We know that $15 billion is going to grow. The market is growing. We've seen those stats. We talked about those stats early on. But when we think about the service fee and what, why, we're all frustrated about it, you can probably just get over it because it's not going anywhere, because it's a $900 million opportunity for Expedia. That's some serious motivation. Their revenue was $447 million last year. At least that's what we see, or I forget where I got that specific stat. But if you think about that and the fact that they could get $900 million off of the service fee if they can get 100% online bookable, it's an unbelievable amount of money. Absolutely unbelievable amount of money. One of the statistics that the street really looks at is EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. I think I got that right. My business school sticks with me well enough. If I blew it, sorry. But it's something like that. Analysts believe, so HomeAway's EBITDA is estimated to be $150 million from 2015. So 150 million EBITDA from 2015. Analysts believe HomeAway's EBITDA will be 350 million by 2018. So more than doubling as a company in basically a year and a half. By the end of 2017, analysts believe HomeAway's EBITDA will be $350 million, and it's roughly 150 million right now. So 150 million is about a third of their revenue right now, because their revenue is about 450 million this last year, estimated. So big, big money, big growth that the analysts, that the market believes we're going to see from HomeAway. And they're getting that numbers from somewhere, whether that's the service fee or whether that's the other businesses that make up HomeAway. It's really a combination of those things. But the market believes that they will be a huge company. And if that 1/3 ratio stays true, you can multiply that 350 million by 3. And I'm getting a little out of my realm here into some of this financial analyst stuff. But just using that ratio and forecasting it forward, that means that they will be over $1 billion in revenue. So my 900 million is actually low because they have a lot of other revenue streams. They're bringing revenue in other than the service fee. The service fee is new revenue they didn't have before. HomeAway has never had the service fee revenue before. So tremendous amount of money coming in from that. So what's coming next? I mean, that's the ultimate question, right? We've talked about a lot of stats. I know you've been with me for about these last 45 minutes. Appreciate you sticking with me as we move through these. But what's coming next, and how is that going to impact your business? That's the ultimate question you have to ask. The service fee is not going anywhere. It's too big of an opportunity. The best match isn't going anywhere. It's designed to help them monetize their platform better, and that's okay. You know, I get it. It's frustrating when you've paid for a platinum listing, but it's not going anywhere. So we believe that Expedia has a plan to turn HomeAway into a 100% online bookable travel marketplace. And we've painted that picture. We've proven that through statistics that there is a huge motivation. There is a $900 million motivation to make that a reality. And we also believe, and I say we believe because this is our conjecture, but we believe Expedia is eyeing a revenue model closer to their established 20% commission model hotels have been paying for years. We don't know that they're going to position that straight into our industry, but everything they're doing is positioning them to be able to make that type of move. If you look at all the strategic moves they're making, they're working 2 years ahead to try to be in this position where they can be a 100% online bookable travel marketplace, and they can charge a commission model that they have already proven works in the hotel industry, and they believe they can bring that model to the vacation rental industry. And I believe that if they control it, they have the opportunity to do that. The question you then have to ask is your business ready for a 20% commission by 2018? If Expedia and HomeAway are making these strategic chess moves today to set themselves up for that in the future, what chess moves do you need to make on your board? Where do you need to move that knight? Where do you need to move your queen today to set yourself up to win in 2018, or to set yourself up to win 10 moves from now, or to make sure that you win this summer, because this summer is a hot issue for a lot of us. If your business is down, which I said the dramatic majority of that poll told us, listing or leads are down year over year from their HomeAway subscriptions, you've got to make some moves today to set yourself up to do that. And we want you to know that that's what we're here to do. Like, that's what we're here to help with. We give you a ton of data. We give you a ton of education. We have a ton of webinars you can watch to be able to do that. But we also help people take their next steps. One of the things I talk about when I present is we just want you to take a next step. Whatever your next step is, be willing to take one next step, and you'll be closer to where you want to go. You don't have to go 100 miles today. But if you're willing to take one next step, you'll be closer than you were when you started. And we believe you need a marketing plan to increase direct bookings. Because you can't bet your business's future, you can't bet your homeowner's future that you serve on it, what Expedia is going to do with this engine they're building through HomeAway. And we want you to know we're here to help. That's what we do all day, every day with the vacation rental managers that we work with. And one great opportunity for you to do that is to request a brand marketing grader. the free service we provide to help you know how are you doing at marketing your brand. You'll get a score from 0 to 100, and the best part about this is you'll get clear action steps to improve your direct bookings today. We'll connect with you on a free call for about 30 minutes, go through those action steps with you, and give you clear ideas to improve that. So if you want to take advantage of that marketing grader today, we want to make that available to you through a poll. So there's a poll up on your screen today right now with 3 questions you can answer. So go ahead and answer those for us, and if the marketing grader is something we can help you with, we'd be happy to do that. So there's a yes, there's a no, I don't want the marketing grader, but I'd like more information on how we could help, or there's a no, but thanks anyways. And that's perfectly okay to check that as well. We just want you to know there are free resources available from us to help you take the next steps. So we'll give you guys a few more seconds to kind of fill that out, and anything we can do to help, go ahead and fill that out, let us know, and we'll get in touch with you. We will also send out an email afterwards where you can fill out a form to request that on our website. There will be a little bit more information requested on that form, and you can fill that out and request the marketing grader from us. Again, totally free, just something to help you figure out what are your next steps as you're trying to build your own marketing. And if you've requested one from us in the past, absolutely, still you can do it, and we'll grade you on the improvements you've made, hopefully since the last time you requested one from us. Awesome. So still see a few responses coming in from that. So we will give that about 5 more seconds here, and then we will keep moving things along. We're going to get to Q&A, so if you have some questions, now is a great time to go ahead and drop those in the chat panel as well. So go ahead, drop those questions in the chat panel, and we will keep things moving and get those questions for you answered. Awesome. See those questions starting to pop in? Great, great. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll, and we will move things forward into the Q&A part of our session today. So let me pull up these questions. We are 2:52, love it. So we're right tracking along on where we wanted to be. Awesome. So let's dive in here. Weed through the responses to comments. There we go. Awesome. So question here from Jeff. Jeff wanted to know, would you consider asking the audience if they would like VRMA to negotiate on behalf of its members special deals on HomeAway? The collective power of association members could create significant leverage to mitigate some of these changes. Great question, Jeff. I can't straight ask that right now because I can't create a poll once we're inside the session. But you know, it's definitely something we might look at asking people in the future. We try not to get too involved in that, so it may be best if VRMA ask that question to the members more so than us. Question from Jay, did you say that there will be a copy of the recording? I have to leave early. Yes, Jay, absolutely, we will get a copy of that recording, but I'm guessing you're gone by now since you had to leave early, but we'll get that out. Question from David about not receiving audio. Hopefully everyone else had that. Hopefully that was just a local issue for David there. A question from Rob, will the commission be realized in a net margin? Rob, I don't know is the answer. Because it's not, you know, we have no bearing on that decision. We're not involved in that decision at all. We're just telling you what we think is happening and where we think things are going. So I don't know is the answer to your question. That'd be a great, and that's not even like necessarily going to happen. I mean, my guess is it would be calculated just as the 8% is calculated now. And I don't know how that is actually calculated. I don't know if they include, I think they include cleaning fees and anything else in that. So all those fees are included in that 8% number, but you have to ask your HomeAway rep to get a clearer answer on that. Question from Betsy. I just received an email that says you are putting this goal off by 1 year because Expedia is still working on internal infrastructure. Well, Betsy, I want to clarify that we're not putting the goal off. We are not HomeAway. We are Q4Launch. We're an agency that works with vacation rental companies to help with marketing, web design, and we're sharing this information with you. So this isn't something we're doing, so let me drive that. We're not HomeAway. But yeah, I mean, the internal infrastructure thing, you know, we think there's more at play than usually what you're told. So I won't dive into a bunch of speculation on why they're putting the goal off. I think some of it's been pushback from the customers, and they just want to, you know, they want to make sure they've got everything, all their ducks in a row. Another question from Rob. Do you suspect the definition of instant will change? Currently, Instant Book allows for a 24-hour window to approve or decline a booking, which isn't exactly instant. Great point, Rob. I believe they'll give you the option. I believe that they will have more of an instant book model like Airbnb has, where it actually is an instant book. You can still cancel as a host, but you get penalized for doing that. I believe it will move that way over time, but like everything, they take baby steps to get you comfortable with one thing at a time. They get you comfortable with one change, and then they make another, and another, and another. Instead of asking you to go all the way at once, they just make these incremental changes, and they deal with the outcry one piece at a time so that they don't lose their customer base. So yes, I do believe in the long run that that will have to happen, or that they will want that to happen. But I don't think that, that it's going to happen in the near future. I think they're going to let it ride as it is for a while. Question from Alex. Think pay per booking commission has been reduced to 5%. I haven't seen that, Alex, but it may be. You know, the last I saw it had been reduced from 10 to 8, but if it's been reduced to 5, then that's great. Good to know. Like I said, things are changing so fast, it's hard to keep up with all of it sometimes. A couple comments here. Comments about the marketing grader. Can it be done after a website change? Absolutely, yeah. If you're in the middle of changing your website, go ahead and fill it out, and when we contact you to schedule that, then just let us know, hey, can I reschedule this for maybe a month from now? And we'll go ahead and put it on the calendar for a month from now after your new website is launched. We'll be happy to do that for you. Question from Kelly. Have you found a charted point on the graph of loss of bookings for VRBO that would offset the growth to 900 million? I'm not 100% sure what you're asking there, Kelly. I mean, there's not a loss of bookings for them. There's, you know, transaction volume. What we're seeing with our customers and what the majority of you are seeing from the poll is that transaction volume is down. But HomeAway is not a $900 million company. And don't get your revenue confused with your valuation. They sold for $3.9 billion, but they don't have revenue of $900 million. Their revenue is roughly, I believe, $550 million based on some estimations. I saw conflicting data there, but if they can go from 500 million, let's just say it's that, in 2015 to 900 million plus the other revenue, that's unbelievable amount of revenue increase. So that's what we believe the opportunity is, and the analysts believe they're going to be about $1 billion company by 2018. So a huge opportunity to drive that growth, to drive that revenue, huge motivation to do that, which would offset anything else that they'd be looking at. What is the difference here? Question from Stephanie. What is the difference between a directory business model and a vacation rental booking marketplace? Great question, Stephanie. Thanks for that. The difference is HomeAway has traditionally been a directory business model where you pay for a listing, and your listing, they don't really necessarily care what happens with your listing. I mean, they do because they want you to renew it, but that's where their responsibility ends. You pay to have a listing on their website, and then you pay for that to be in a certain order, Platinum, Gold, Classic, right? That's the way it traditionally was, and they're moving to an online or a vacation rental booking marketplace, which imagine that difference between a hotel having a listing on Expedia but not being able to be booked versus the way Expedia actually is, where every hotel who's listed on Expedia is also booked on Expedia. So that's the difference. Not only are you listed there, but you are booked there. And the revenue, and this is the most important differentiation, is the revenue passes through the marketplace. In this case, Expedia. For a hotel to take a reservation, the revenue has to pass through Expedia and then to the hotel. Versus the way most of us have done business, you have a directory listing on HomeAway, but the revenue you collect and receive and control. Huge difference from a booking model. So, that's kind of the difference. Hopefully I explained that well. Question from Mike here. Did I see somewhere pay-per booking is going to 5%? You're the second person to mention it, so maybe. So that maybe that is, and that's something I didn't find in my research, but maybe it is. Is a question from Lauren. Is the HomeAway conversion rate based on visitors to transactions, or is it based on visitors who search for a rental to actual rental transactions? How does the HomeAway conversion compare to Expedia's? Great question. I don't exactly know where they came up with their 2% number, but I believe typically the way it's converted, well, I know the way it's calculated most times, and I don't know how they're calculating it, but I believe they're most likely calculating it as either visitors to transaction or unique visitors to transaction. And the differentiation there, unique visitors only count once. Visitors can count multiple times every time they come to the site within the month. Unique visitors is usually about half of actual visitors. So That's kind of the differentiation there. And it's those that visitors who make a transaction, not who search and then make a transaction. The search is an extra step in the process. That is a conversion point they should be measuring. How many visits to our website conduct a search? That's a conversion they should measure. That's a conversion you could measure in your business, but that's not the ultimate one they're measuring of 2 to 3%. So I believe it's visitors who make a transaction, which I don't know how they're defining transactions, but most likely somewhere along the lines of either they become a lead, or they submit an inquiry, or they make a booking. They take some action is most likely what they're doing there. Skip over that because I was asked not to read it out loud. David, a question here from David. What would be your suggestion for HomeAway VRBO listings in the future? The new annual subscription fee at $350 or pay per booking? That's a great question, David. It's a little more complicated than that. You have to run a calculation to really figure that out. I would say if you have properties that are struggling, I would move them to pay per booking, because I believe you will see more transaction activity, lead volume if you're pay per booking than if you're on the flat fee subscription model. Regardless of which one you're on, they are motivated to send you more bookings if they get 8% of every booking they send you, or 5% or whatever that number is. The way you have to make that decision for your other properties is say, okay, I know I get X amount of booking revenue from HomeAway, and I take that amount, whatever that is, $40,000 or $50,000, whatever, and then multiply that by the pay per booking percentage. If that number is then larger than $350, you would want to pay $350 flat fee. If it's smaller than $350, you would want to go pay per booking model. That's the basic equation. Of course, you got to get the percentage right to be able to answer that. Question from Linda. When you say 100% online bookings from HomeAway, does this mean that we can't book privately from friends, families that want to rent? No, I don't believe it would mean that at all. You can still have blackout dates on your calendar, and those bookings would come directly through you. But it would mean that your calendar would have to be up to date, and that someone could book it by submitting a booking request, and then you'd have 24 hours to accept or reject or talk to the guest to get more information. So you could still accept bookings privately, but you would have to make sure your calendar was always up to date on HomeAway, which has a lot of implications for companies that don't list all of their inventory on HomeAway as well. The question is asking for the recordings. Happy to get that out. It'll take us a little time to convert it and everything else. Some follow-up here from some people. Based on average commission of 30 to 35 for property managers, how can you expect to charge a 20% commission? Again, Mike, I'll make sure you know that's not us. That's not us charging that. We're not HomeAway. But yeah, that's the point, right? I mean, that's one of the points I'm making. If you're making 30%, the industry average is actually closer to 20%. So we believe that that's coming down the road. Will it be 20%? Maybe, maybe not. But we believe some things are headed that direction. So you have to be really be figuring that out and figuring out a strategy. A question from Jen. When you quote stats for HomeAway in terms of listings, fees, revenue, is this for VRBO and HomeAway listings collectively? Great question, Jen. This is for the entire company. So it's HomeAway and everything they own are what we're including in these numbers. So it's all of their sites, and then the revenue would include all of the businesses that they own, which I don't know how many businesses they own, but they own tons of businesses underneath the brand. Question here for our follow-up from Mike. HomeAway is offering grace period to renew current subscription. Is renewing my platinum listing for another year a waste of money? I don't know, Mike, because I need more data to be able to answer that question for you. Again, we make data-driven decisions, so I can't just give you a straight answer. I would encourage you to request that marketing grader, though. If nothing else, it would give you an opportunity. We would be able to have a one-on-one conversation and get your data as opposed to in a larger setting like this. So please do that. We'll be happy to answer those, or just email them to me. My email is on the screen. Email me questions that are more personal, and be happy to try to help you work through them. Question from Charles. Are property managers still experience serious problems with TripAdvisor's flip Cape? We've still seen some problems, yeah. I mean, depends on what you define as serious problems. I know there was the whole big thing last year, so yes and no. We see some people who are having success with it, some people who are still seeing serious problems. So, it's something you have to connect probably more directly with another property manager on. Question from Vicky. With Google's new SERP algorithm and its effects on organic search, how are those of us trying to build content to combat the HomeAway strategy going to be effective? Great question, Vicky. We have seen tremendous success with the content strategies we've been employing. It is a long road. It is not an overnight success, but we have been seeing great success through the content marketing strategy that we've been employing for our customers. So I would say that it will continue to perform. The content marketing strategy will continue to perform because it is a longer road, a longer journey, and people just aren't as willing to do it. Now, do I think you can beat HomeAway at the search game? No, I don't. But you don't have to beat them to still win, because this isn't a one-on-one game. This is a 1-on-10 game or 1-on-13 game when you look at search engine results. You don't have to be ahead of them. You just have to be there to be able to get traction and get traffic. Question from Alex. Will this commission reduction apply to Canada stays? I can't comment on any of those specific issues because I don't know those policies. A lot of this is just kind of what our research was, and I didn't research that. And another question is HomeAway and VRBO's sister company. HomeAway owns VRBO. So HomeAway is the parent company, and VRBO is one of the sites or companies they own underneath that. Question from Nita. I am sorry if we missed it, but say a person makes a reservation online for next Thanksgiving. When do we receive that payment? We hear multiple models for this, Nita, to answer your question. Some of them are you receive that 24 hours after the guest checks in. Some of those are you receive that once the cancellation period, you're within the cancellation period and they can't cancel. So you would need to ask your HomeAway rep because there are multiple models we've seen from that perspective. Question from Liz. How does HomeAway handle payment to property managers with instant booking? Is it paid after the guest arrives? I kind of just addressed that one, so I won't dive into that. Another request for the recording. We will send the recording out to everyone who registered today. So if you're on the list, if you registered, you'll get a copy of it. You're welcome. Thanks for that comment there, Gail. A question from Kevin. With 100% booking coming, how does HomeAway expand to handle legal issues from bad rental issues, damages, theft, etc.? That's part of what they say they're paying for out of the service fee. So that's part of what the service fee is going towards. It's supposed to be insurance for those types of things. Airbnb pays those things with their $1 million host guarantee out of their service fee as well. It's basically they have an insurance policy that covers that. And I know property owners that have filed claims against Airbnb's $1 million service guarantee and had great success with it. So I'm imagining that they will be dealing with things like that. And I also imagine that there will still be travel insurance offered through the travel insurance companies. So HomeAway has a relationship with CSA. There's Travel Guardian. There's lots of others. I believe that will always be a part of our industry as well. So those things will still be happening. Question from Mike. Thanks, Matt, and the Q4Launch team. Great webinar. Absolutely, Mike. Appreciate your comments. Always appreciate that. Thanks for being here. And thank you for everyone else who's popping those comments in as well. We appreciate that. So I'm going to wrap it up today. We're about 9 minutes past when I wanted to wrap up. But thank you all. I know we got a ton of questions. If there's anything else we can do to answer your questions, please let us know. Please do. The best way to do that is to either get in touch with us or to request that brand marketing grader. So I'll have that there on the screen for you. And if there's anything we can do, happy to do that for you as well. So let us know if there's anything we can do to help. Thanks everybody for your time, and let's get back to business. Let's make it happen. Get out there and help grow this economy through being great entrepreneurs like I know you all are. So thanks everybody, and stay tuned for future webinars from us as well. We'll be sending a lot of other invitations out, so stay tuned for those webinars.